Came up on Twitter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DFS Down Under show for another week. Week 2 in the AFL is rapidly approaching, and I'm very excited for this week's show. I'm Smatho 10, and welcome to the show. We're live streaming tonight on Twitter and on YouTube, so make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel if you need to catch up on the show at any time. Now, I've managed to drag the hostage out again. Tristan, Hef, and Big Hef, how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm in the dungeon again. I'm pumped. How are you, Matho?
Not bad, not bad. I just had to drag you out for another week of from DFS love, especially in the AFL. How's your week been? Pretty good?
It's been good. Got a little sneaky winner tonight at Lonnie, so I'm up and about.
Yeah, up and about. Speaking of up and about, let's get on with the show. Now, every week I'm going to introduce this brand new segment into the show. Smatho's 2 thumbs up. Love to got a confession to make. The best article on the DFR website on dailyfantasyrankings.com.au is the weekend wrap up. I love reading about the winners from the particular big slates over the weekend. And I'm just going to do a bit of a shout out to our winners over the weekend. Also, we had the big 100K on Thursday night with the Carlton game, and we had the Master 23 taking it all, the big 9.9K win. I think he didn't have was it Dustin Martin and the Cripps old boy. He didn't have his side, and he pulled the 9.9K. So he started the ball running. Also, the big Saturday slate, the 50K was also one with Matty Lee entering 3 sides with the same team and just went bang, whoosh, got 1, 2, 3 and took in over $10,000 in prize money. And then on to the Sunday slate. Stimpy 870 and Penny 1 cent had the same team, and they took out the Sunday slate. So every week I'm going to give a bit of a shout out to the guys who managed to top the leaderboard, and hopefully one day, Hef, you will be getting the shout out yourself. So in tradition for the DFS Down Under show, I'm going to give my 2 thumbs up to you blokes. Want my 2 thumbs bloke up? Make sure you win the big slate. Do check out the articles on the DFR website, and make sure you check out our results every weekend. Now, let's get into round 2 of the AFL season. And again, we go Thursday night with a big $50,000 contest on Draft Stars and a $10,000 Moneyball contest. We've got Richmond versus Collingwood. Now, to set this up, we did have a small favourite in Richmond, but just checking the odds this evening, we're now at a pick'em here, Hef. Total points is $173 points for the particular matchup. In the team news, we have got no Alex Rance and no Bashir Hooley. He's out with injuries. Noah Bolton has just crushed pretty much 20% of their season-long fantasy sides by not being selected in round 2. And then for the Pies, we've got Levi Greenwood coming in for Callum Brown. So, Hef, we've got Jesse's article live on the DFR website. Talk me through this particular matchup. And as always, I love to start with the Rucks, my number 1 pick. Take it away, Hef. Who are we doing here in the Rucks this week?
The Rucks. Geez, you can almost play any ruck you want this week.
Ooh, can we?
So everyone knows last year we just targeted Nankervis, and he just gave up the most in the comp. So obviously Grundy, he disappointed everyone last week with his 84, but last year he had 84 round 1, came out and smashed a big 120 round 2. So I don't think there's too much to worry about with Grundy. And last year against the Nank, he had 115 and 147. So if you want to pay up for Grundy, fair enough. Nank went back at him last year, 131 and 94. So it's not all one-way traffic for Grundy, that's for sure. So Nank's 3,300 cheaper. So Grundy really wants to score about 25 more points than him if you're going to play Grundy over Nank. And then if you're paranoid like sort of everyone is in the comp at the moment about the ruck scores in round 1, so we only had 3 tons in round 1. We had Nankervis 115, top the whole comp. Mm-hmm. And then we had Callum Sinclair and Big Boy McAvoy. They're the only other 2 blokes to get over 100. So if you're starting to worry that the Rucks aren't going to score as well this year because of the rule changes and whatever else, then maybe you just put in Mason Cox, $9,000.
Yep.
Absolutely ripped him to shreds in the prelim last year, like we all know, with 108. But his other two games against Richmond were good too, 73, 62, which aren't too bad at that price range. And I don't know who's going to be the second ruck for Richmond. Do you know? With Noah Bolter out, old Relton Roberts 2.0, Noah Bolter, will we ever see him again?
No, I don't think we'll see him again. And obviously, it's been a bigger build-up for old Cox. He's reliving the prelim fantasy that he had last year. So I think that's a pretty good take there, Hef. As you said, there was not many points for Ruckman, and possibly this new rule system, especially with the kick-ins. We're not kicking to a Ruckman down the forward pocket anymore. We're actually going over the top of them almost.
Yeah. So obviously it could be an overreaction, and everyone might have the same thought and think, well, I'm going to avoid the big guys. I'll play Mason Cox. There's no Rance there. That's going to help Cox take his marks because he doesn't have Rance floating around in front of him. I'm really on the fence on what ruck to go, and I'll probably play a combination of all three across my lineups.
Could be the old 30, 30, 35, for that particular matchup.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some good choices for this particular game. Is there anything that's sticking out for you for this particular matchup?
Okay, first of all, round 2, we get the averages now against players when we're going through picking our teams on Draft Stars or Moneyball, and I think that's something to keep in your mind when you're picking your teams, because if you're looking at a team and you're trying to work out who's going to fill that last spot, you can have a bloke like Jack Graham, $9,700, and you got 106 last week, and it's just something in your head you're going to look at and think, oh, well, it's just great value, 100 if he hits another 100 at 9,700. So keep in mind that the guys last week who went big, they're probably going to be owned a little more than they should be. And the blokes who had a shocker last week, looking at you still Sidebottom, they're probably going to be under-owned.
Yep.
So there's the option to go against the crowd this week, and it starts to get really interesting.
Now, obviously, from the resources on the DFR website, which you can check out for free at any time, you will see that obviously Richmond is not a great scoring fantasy-wise, and then the Collingwood's up on the a little bit higher than that, and they don't really concede many points to each other. So, are we going to be looking at stacking pies, or are we going to try and be more of a balance with more Richmond players in our sides this week?
Look, I think you've got to lean heavily to the pies. You look at the last 3 times they've played. Preliminary final last year when the Pies won, 7 Pies got tons. Only 1 Tiger got a ton. The other 2 games in the year Richmond won, but it was still all Pies. So round 19, the Tigers won by nearly 5 goals, but you had 5 Collingwood players just flicking the ball around and getting hundreds. No one from the Tigers got 100. They didn't need to get 100. They won the game. And then round 6, the Tigers won by 43 points, but it was still 5 tons from the Pies for that time from the Tigers. So whichever way you think the game's going to go, you're probably going to see the biggest scores come from Collingwood rather than Richmond. So you've got to keep that in mind. Obviously, Richmond don't tag, so that's a big plus for all those Collingwood midfielders that just feast on the empty calories and just chip the ball around. And the fantasy scoring isn't necessarily going to reflect the game result, I don't think.
Question without notice here, with Levi Greenwood now on the side, would you believe he'd be tagging Dusty or possibly go to someone else?
I think he'll go to Dusty when I saw him. They were calling him the Dustbuster. Who else are you going to tag for Richmond, really? Cotchin was very good last week, but he doesn't hurt you as much as Dusty. So, yeah.
Now, you talked about Graham being a cheaper salary with a great average. I've noticed old Koch didn't really get a salary boost in his particular matchup here. Is he going to be chalk? Is he good chalk or is he going to be a bad chalk?
Oh, he's going to be chalk, isn't he? Koch, 12,000. Look, he's only got to get about 90 points to be worth playing. And he's done it before against the Pies. And the new 666, he's going to spend a lot of time in the middle, I think. He did last week. So, yeah, he's probably good chalk, Koch. But it all goes on how he fits in your lineup. And so I wouldn't be locking and loading by any stretch, but I wouldn't be desperately trying to avoid him. And the other chalk's probably going to be Darcy Moore again, I think. He went up a little bit. He played a really good game of footy against Carlton, which wasn't reflected in his score so much. He only got 52. You don't get points for spoiling, and he made some great spoils, but that doesn't help anyone.
No, it doesn't.
But considering you got all those big pies midfielders, you got the big expensive rucks. When you got 7,500 for Darcy Moore down back, Richmond do give up points to the backman. They do allow teams to chip it around a bit in the back half. So, he seems a fine play more, but if he's going to be 50, 60% again, yeah, maybe he's one you might want to go against.
All right. So if I'm going to go away from Moore, Richmond's decimated down back with no Hooley and no Rance. Surely there has to be some extra points for down there for the Tigers.
Yeah, well, I think we mentioned this on our tutorial video actually for the player out tables on the website.
Player out. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so the one thing we noticed when we were doing that is we looked at Richmond, we looked at Basher Hooley, and we looked at Jaden Short. So when Jaden Short got the back line to himself with no Hooley, there was a 15-point bonus for Jaden Short. So straight away, Hooley's out. That's the first thing I'm thinking is Jaden Short. He's in play. He's down to 11,000. He was pretty good last week. He got low 80s, I think, and he's got a 100-point upside. He scored a pair of 70s last year against Collingwood, which definitely wouldn't kill your lineup. So, yeah, he's got to be the pick of the Richmond backs for me.
All right, and just quickly touch on the forwards. The Lynch hot take didn't get off the ground after quarter time. I was up and about when he got the 2 early goals, and I thought, "Your beauty, he's put me in a little sneaky play here." And then he saw the old stats: 3 kicks, 3 goals. I'm thinking that's just not going to get it done tonight.
No, you told me you were going to cut that out of last week's video, actually. But
no.
You left it in. You left it in.
No, it's live. It's live, Hef. You know, if you say something, it's going out to our audience, and obviously we need redemption here. What about it's going up forward here?
Yeah, well, I did say I didn't think he'd be he was clearly underdone, wasn't he, Lynch? And it was a hard night to mark the ball, especially Thursday and Friday night. There were a lot of marks dropped. So Lynch actually got his hand on the ball a heap of times, but just kept dropping marks. But anyway, I'm off Lynch now. So I thought that was my one go, maybe low ownership, maybe we'll catch everyone on the hop. Now I think everyone knows what he is. So I'm away from Lynch. I'm going to fade Jack Riewoldt again. We faded him last week. That came off. You didn't mention that one, did you?
No. But anyway, all right, fair enough. What about some more guys up there? Is there anyone since we're fading Dusty, we're going to be fading pretty much the Rucks and trying to jump on a bit of the Cox action. Also, we've got some money now, so what are we looking at?
Yeah, so Lambert is one that sticks out just because he plays through the midfield a lot.
Yep.
But we've got so much money we can spend in the midfield that I think trading down in forwards is probably a decent opportunity as well. So Jack Higgins scored 80-something last week. We loved him last week, and he came through with the goods. And somehow his price went down. So, yeah, work that out. But
up goes the ownerships then, I suppose, when you do that.
Yeah, he seems a pretty obvious play, but he's got a pretty high floor. Higgins, he gets up the ground. He loves a goal. We said he's going to be chasing points, like that goal he kicked from the boundary. It's a free kick. He doesn't care. He'll take it for himself. That's what we like from our fantasy guys. So Higgins is an obvious one. Someone like Shane Edwards is, well, he doesn't stand up very often, but he is a big game player, Titchy. Big games at the MCG were his high-scoring games last year. So dream time, he went berserk. He had about 110, which is unheard of for him. He had a couple of games against Collingwood where he was, I think he got 90 one game against Collingwood. If you're looking for someone a bit cheaper, maybe you can throw Titchy Edwards in. But, yeah, I think it's just going to be rotating a few guys. Jamie Elliott's obviously the other one. He was very good last week.
He was
with ability.
He was good.
As long as his back stands up. So, yeah, I'll probably Lambert and then some of those 9K guys, and then I think we'll be spending money in the midfield like a lot of people.
Now, as we said, we are live streaming tonight on Twitter and on YouTube, and we've received some love here, Hef, for once. We didn't get much love last week, but this week we had Uncle Weeps on Twitter send us a question here for you, Hef, and He goes to say, interested in your thoughts on whether or not you think Sidebottom's 41 disposals in last year's prelim and all the talk about letting him run 3, do the Tigers look to give him some attention in the midfield?
I would say no. Well, not straight away anyway. It just doesn't fit with Richmond's structure. I think that we saw that they didn't tag last year. People would get some big numbers against them. We showed that graphic last week, I think, where the top 3 midfielders score really well against Richmond. And we were playing Crips on that basis. They don't really care who gets the ball for the other team. So I think it's a great spot for Sidebottom to bounce back. He's down to 14,000. He's going to have no attention, and only if he rips them to shreds, maybe they send Jack Graham like they did to Sloane in the grand final a couple of years back. But no, I think he's just going to have his own pill tomorrow night, Sidebottom. So I'll be playing heaps of him.
Excellent. Is that your hot take for the week? Get on the Sidebottom.
To a degree, yeah.
Yes. Critique time next week.
Yeah, get on Sidebottom.
Speaking of critiquing, as you know, on our DFR website, we put in the Dragons picks for our particular articles for every matchup or every slate that we put up. And let's have a look at the picks this week for this Richmond and Collingwood game. And, a bit safe here, I think, in a couple of bets, especially those first 2. The Richmond at 2.5, well, that's kind of evaporated now. That line's kind of shifting towards Collingwood. Jack Crisp for more fantasy points than Jaden Short. There's a 50-50 there. What do you think, Hef? That one.
Yeah, I think the Dragon, you wouldn't have known the Hooley news there, so that probably lines it up a bit closer, maybe. Richmond, yeah, see, everyone's worried about Rance. You could argue Hooley's a bigger loss for them than Rance, but I love the Tom Phillips to get 30 or more disposals. $4.50. I think the Dragons found something there. I'm going to have to go and get on. Is that Sportsbet? I'll get on Sportsbet later because his last couple of games against Richmond, Phillips, he's gone berserk. So he's just the total nothing guy that no one gives a stuff about. So I like that one from the Dragon.
Now, I've noticed the Dragon as well has put in a couple of sneaky sides in the big slates over the weekend. Didn't really catch what happened on Saturday. Can you inform the good audience here how the Dragon go on Saturday?
Yeah, we saw the Dragon put his team in first up, and he came 25th on Saturday in the mini. I noticed because he finished 2 spots behind me, so tough luck there, Dragon. But,
tough luck. Suck it up.
Buddy Franklin screwed the Dragon there. He only got 40-something, but the rest of his team was pretty sharp. And then he must have got on the drink with Essendon or something because his Sunday team just went absolutely awful. But yeah, keep an eye for the Dragon. He's going to put a team up there, and you can maybe use that and change a couple of players around and give you something to start with. So good luck to the Dragon, but I think I'll be knocking him off again this week.
You think so? Oh, I'll have a crack too. I'll have a crack, but don't be surprised that the Dragon is a little bit sharper than what Smatho can deliver sometimes. Hef, let's touch on the rest of the games for this particular weekend in round 2. Also Friday night, the traditional premium matchup, but we've got the Sydney Swans at the SCG playing the LA Crows. Draft Stars have put up a $40,000 contest for the particular event. I believe last week's Friday contest actually filled and went over, so don't be surprised if the 40K ends up a little bit more towards the 50. And good on you, the DFS community, for getting aboard here. Sydney are currently around the goal favourite, 5.5 favourites with 163.5 total. And when I first looked at this particular matchup on the slate, I went straight to Rory Sloane. He was 13,600, and I thought, you beauty. Now, Hef, are you going to talk me out windmilling Rory Sloane in this particular matchup for me?
Look, I don't think I will, Matho. He went berserk last week, didn't he, Sloane? And it all depends what they do with George Hewitt. So last year, Sloane didn't play in this. They had the game up there in Sydney.
Oh, didn't he?
He didn't play. So Hewitt went to Bryce Gibbs and just stood next to him. Bryce Gibbs just evaporated like he does. He got 65 or something, but yeah, Hewitt just ate him for breakfast. Interestingly, Hewitt didn't tag anyone against the Bulldogs, and maybe he should have because the bomb just ripped him to shreds.
Especially late in that game,
Doesn't he love getting on the end of one up in that forward 50? The bomb,
yeah, he does.
But so maybe the 666 rule is has caused the death of the tagger. Round 1, we had one tag in the whole round, and it was Hutchings on Zorko. And like, if Hutchings isn't tagging, what's the point of him being there? So, and Zorko's still got 94. Actually, he really toughed it out pretty well, Zorko. But the rest of the comp, we didn't really see one hard tag the whole weekend. So, is it the death of the tagger, Matho?
Jeez, Hef coming out the trends tonight. The Rucks are no good anymore. They've disappeared in the thin air, and the taggers are just about going out the door with them. This is some.
No, you might be putting words in my mouth on the Rucks there. I want to wait a little bit longer for the Rucks before I start shipping them all off. But
hold you to that.
Sloan, Rocky, Sidebottom, like they'd be totally giggling at the moment, thinking that no one's going to go with them. Ben Jacobs is not coming back for any time soon, so.
Fair enough.
He's a big tagger, but yeah, that's something to keep an eye on because there's a few blokes there who we all tend to avoid because of the taggers. It could be their time to shine this year.
So, now, obviously, with the no teams out for Friday night, obviously we'll get those on Thursday evening, but make sure you check out our resources on the DFR website. You can look at the single game slate straight away for all these particular Thursday night and Friday matchups. You can check out the projections and also look for that those previous matchups and those other tools that are available on the website as well. So do make sure you check it out on dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. Hef, let's have another look at the Saturday slate. Saturday last week, obviously, people like yourself did actually really well. You're actually one player away from taking it all. Some thoughts on the 4-game slate here on Saturday, which is actually a bit of a later start here at 4:30. So we've got a bit more prep time for this particular slate.
Yes, they left it open for the AFLW final, didn't they? And then put them on Sunday. Yeah. So good on you, AFL.
Anyway, go AFL. Try again next year.
These games aren't overly exciting for me on the Saturday. One bloke I did think might be a bit of value would be Robbie Gray. He's down to 10,000. He only got 79 in that massacre over. Well, it seemed like a massacre when they beat Melbourne. They only won by 20-something points. But obviously Rocky was just feeding his guts all day long. But Robbie Gray did spend a lot of time in the midfield. Obviously, with no Wines there, they brought in Willem Drew to run through a bit, but there's still plenty of midfield time up for grabs. Taking on Carlton, 10,000 Robbie Grays, if he doesn't have 100 in him, if he rests up forward, who better to rest up forward against than Carlton? I just reckon he's got massive upside this week, Robbie Gray, and he's definitely one of my favourite players on Saturday.
My initial thoughts is possibly a balanced approach. We've got Zach Williams, who was pretty chalky last week and didn't get to the lofty heights that we usually with Zach Williams, and he's at 10K as well, along with Robbie Gray. And we've also looked at, All-Australian backman and Tom Stewart down in Geelong. He's also 10K as well, and he had actually turned it up last week. So if you start lining these little 10K players and find some value and obviously using the resources off the website, you'd be able to get that extra premium start into your Saturday slate. Actually, as I said, the games are not that exciting, but from a DFS point of view, some good salaries this week.
That's the beauty of DFS, isn't it? They could be the most boring games in the world, but if we've got a couple of teams in, then geez, we're glued to the telly, aren't we?
Now, speaking of salary, I've also noticed there was two things I noticed. It was Stewart, Robbie Gray. Sorry, let's make it 4 things actually. Stewart, Robbie Gray, Zach Williams, and Max Gawn.
Max Gawn, you like Max Gawn?
Well, Max Gawn in last season or the year before, if you had him at 13,000 and a bit on DS, you'd be like, lock it in. First ruck, Max Gawn, put down 120 and move on. Tell me Gawn's going to have 120 this week.
Let's take on Max Gawn this week, Matho.
Take him on.
You see what happened last week?
Yes, I saw what happened last week, and he got bashed up by rookies.
So this goes back to the prelim final last year, when everyone thought Melbourne was going to waltz over there and knock off the Eagles and go straight to the grand final, and West Coast just ripped them to shreds, and they just got Lysett and Vardy. They just bashed up Max Gawn. And you reckon Lysett hasn't told Port Adelaide when he's turned up there this year and how he's going to sort out Max Gawn in round 1. And clearly they're all into him. Like those rookies that have never played the game ever, and they're trying to bash up Max Gawn, and he just totally disappeared. As if Geelong's not going to do the same thing this week. They got Reece Stanley, who's...
Reece Stanley, the most, violent creature on
underrated tough guy now, Reece Stanley.
All right.
Underrated tough guy. They went down the category last year, and Max Gawn only had 91. Reece Stanley had 99 and showed him up. He took on Grundy last week. He kept Grundy to 84. Underrated tough guy, Reece Stanley. They're going to down the category. They don't get out alive down the category. They're going to bash up Max Gawn, and he's going to be screaming for Braden Pruce to come in. If they don't bring Pruce in this week, it will be definitely in round 3 because Gawn is just a shadow of himself. And until he works this out, he'll be like Jason Janison when he took 2 years off when they put someone next to him for the Bulldogs. He's got to sort it out, Gawn, or he's in all sorts of trouble.
This bloody thing's vibrating off its head at the moment, Hef. Look, the dragon's up here saying, stuff you, Hef, I'm going to play Max Gawn and get me 120.
Bring up Briz 17 and ask him how we went playing Max Gawn.
You
won't get off the
phone. All right, let's quickly touch on Sunday. Big $30,000 on Draft Stars again. 3 games. Look, the Rucks are in. I'm loving these Rucks this week. Big boy McAvoy is my number 1 pick because, as you said on the DFR resources, you look at the resources here and look up who was the best ruckman to play against, and it was the
Doggies.
The Doggies.
Poor old Timmy English.
Old Timmy English. So don't try and convince me out of it.
No.
Big boy McAvoy, number 1, bang. Talk about who else can we play this week on the Sunday.
I reckon there's a little bit there on the Sunday. First of all, Dane Zorko. I mentioned him before. He copped the tag against West Coast, and somehow he still got up to 94. So that's good for Zorko because he'll have a 40 or a 50, no worries at all when he cops a tag, and especially from Hutchings, who've been doing a really good job. And the thing about Zorko is he keeps going all the way to the end of the match. So he's under 14,000 now because of that lowish score in the 90s. And North don't have Ben Jacobs. I don't think it's a given North are going to tag Zorko. And if they don't tag him, he's going to go absolutely bananas. Last year, 128 at the Dome, 154 at the Gabba. He just feasts. So they got Lockie Neal there, but they lost Dane Beam, so they still don't really have any extra midfielders from last year. Massive upside play, Dane Zorko. I'm really keen him.
Yeah, Brisbane could go 2 and zip here, playing against the North, on a trip back to Perth. Exciting times for the Lions here.
Yeah, they've got some good thing on players, don't they?
Obviously, their little baby cousins down the road, the Suns, they went pretty all right from a fantasy point of view last week. They had the cheap players with, some good tons going on in the midfield. Nearly got it done by the Saints. I was actually rooting for the Suns to get that win because I just really wanted to heap on the pay on the Saints. But any value in the Suns are you looking at for Sunday?
Yeah, so they got a little pig up there in the pen, the Suns, Braden Fiorini. He had 114 last week against the Saints. And he's just coming home, back up in the sun where he's sort of acclimatising. They've got Freo coming right across the country. Freo will have been reading the papers all week over there. They'll be front page, how good is Freo? We're going to the grand final. And they'll probably forget to turn up. They just think it's just a matter of walking on the ground. And Fiorini's still only 13,000. He's definitely got 130 in him, Fiorini. And no one's going to – probably don't even know who he is. So he's just going to run around getting points at will. I love Fiorini on Sunday. And another son who let everyone down and been swearing and carrying on about him all week, Pierce Hanley, the Irishman.
Oh, no, Pierce Hanley. Not again. Again? You got to tell me you got to do Pierce Hanley again.
This is what we do in DFS. If you read Jesse's stuff, he likes to back the truck up. And I'm backing the truck up this week on Pierce Hanley. He scored 52 and he's gone up in price, but he's still only 8,100. Just blew out the cobwebs, I reckon, Pierce. Now he comes home. He's just going to be chipping around the pockets there at Metricon. 2 games last year when he didn't get injured, 67 and 90. Both would be more than adequate at that salary. But you can go 100, no worries at all. Massive, massive upside, Pierce Hanley. And there is a chance everyone just, like your reaction then, they could just jump off Pierce. I'm sick of him. He cost me last week, cost me the lot. No more Pierce Hanley for me. I'm never playing Irishman ever again. All that sort of rubbish. This could be the week to get on Pierce Hanley.
Oh, just the little crumbs, the num crumbs for Pierce Hanley.
Exactly.
Probably, I bet you Freo kicked like 11 goals, 25, and he takes all the kick-ins from fullback.
Well, yeah, that'd be good.
Easy 70 points. All right, Hef. Have you checked out the other offerings here in the DFS world lately?
I
Or
have.
you been?
I,
Oh, you bum stuck in the AFL.
I'm a new NRL expert, Matho.
Oh,
I had a
speaking of experts, a little mini win in the Broncos game last week, and that was actually thanks to our newest contributor here on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website, C France 1990, or we like to call him Frenchie around here.
Frenchie.
He put on a beautiful preview of the Broncos Cowboys game, and old Smatho just thought, yes, that makes a bit of sense. Put a line up in the 2 minute, and whooshka, number one with a bullet. So make sure you check out his content on the DFR website. We've got the big game here on Thursday night with the Broncos. Again, you'll find our Broncos play a lot of these games on Thursday and Friday nights. So they'll play up against St. George. You'll wonder, have already under the pump, 0-2. And for once, our Moneyball have actually come to the party here and posted a $7,000 contest compared to Draft Stars $5,000. So if you're done with your AFL, obviously early tomorrow, and just sneak in a couple of NRL sites in there, tomorrow is it's a good fun, the old NRL. But as I said, make sure you check out his articles, and he also sneaks in his projections, which I believe it's the only projections you'll be able to see for free here in the DFS community on our DFR website. Hef, we've also got other sports that are firing up this week. Have you checked out the Smatho's article on the Dell match play? Have you checked that out yet?
I always read your golf articles, Matho. I've got no idea what's going on, but it helps me put a couple of lineups in. And yeah, this week it's a very confusing format. You've got to read your article this week to know what's going on, I think.
Oh, look, it hurt my brain a little bit, but once I got the bracket system thinking, okay, I'll choose one from that bracket and I'll choose another from the bracket, then you have a 6-man lineup and you cross your fingers and hope the best. Do check that out. The contest actually locks tonight in the early hours of tomorrow morning around 1 a.m. So if you've just forgotten that golf starts, I do suggest to jump on the article and chuck your team in on DraftKings. A-Leagues is back on Friday night. So obviously, we've got articles on that particularly for A-League. So that's been out throughout the season. That's obviously coming towards the final series as well. And the little buzz boxes are in Bahrain for the F1 Grand Prix here on Sunday evening, early hours of the morning. So we've got the article up for that as well. Have you had a little bit of dabble in the F1s before?
I can't say I've played a whole lot of F1s, but I did see PlayOn's got a big $25,000 super contest. So they're always a lot of fun. You can get in pretty cheap in those qualifiers, get yourself a few entries into the main event at the end of the year. Jump on, have a read of the articles. You only need to find a couple of winners in the Formula One. You might make it into the final. So there's plenty going on.
Plenty going on. So obviously the DFS sites are going to be full of games in the lobby. So do make sure that you check it out. But also your first stop is going to the Daily Fantasy Rankings website to make sure you check out all of our articles from myself, from the hostage over here, and also other our contributors to the site. Do drop us a line here on our Twitter page. It's at RankingsDFS. Make sure you follow that. You can also follow myself at Smatho10 or at TM Heffernan. Hef, while on the show, did you back a winner at Launceston while we are talking away?
Not while we're talking. I got the money with IM.
No.
I thought that was named after Smatho, so we got that home in race 2. We might get off in time to bags the tackler in race 7.
All right. Well, let's let the good people go, and make sure, as I said, follow the site, follow our Twitter feeds, and hopefully we'll see everyone on the leaderboards, and hopefully old Smatho and Hef here beat the Dragon in their little slates on the weekend.
And next week you get Matho's double thumbs up. That's what I'm.
Double thumbs up. I'm looking forward to reading the winners. I want to give them the double thumbs up, give them a shout out. So make sure you do your best and win some money. Hef, thanks for joining on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Smatho. See you next week.
See you next week. Good luck, everyone in the DFS world. See you next week.